Daniel Ellsberg, the whistleblower who released the Pentagon Papers in 1971, has studied the dangers of nuclear conflict for decades. It's the basis for his book, The Doomsday Machine: Confessions of a Nuclear War Planner. We sat down with him to discuss the origins of nuclear war plans and today's crises. For more than 40 years, Daniel Ellsberg has been known as the man who exposed the U.S. government's secrets about the Vietnam War.
I did this clearly at my own jeopardy.
But there's an even bigger secret he's been keeping about his involvement in planning for an even bigger war. You said, I was part of a plan that should never have been made, that was a crime against humanity.
Yes.
What was the plan?
The plan was to hit every city in the Soviet Union and every city in China. There was no plan for fighting Soviets that did not also involve annihilating the Chinese population. The result was a readiness to annihilate 600 million people, 100 holocausts. When I say crime against humanity, it was actually a crime against the existence of the human species.
This is the end of days, and that was the plan.
Yes.
I pray that the coming years will be blessed with peace and prosperity.
In the 1960s, it was Ellsberg's job to update the nuclear plans left by President Eisenhower. You've said this was the most evil plan that ever existed. And yet, the people that you knew who drafted this plan, were they amoral?
No, what this revealed to me was something about our species that I've had to live with for the next 50 years and try to understand. They're very normal, ordinary, smart, conscientious, patriotic people working in secret can carry out monstrous plans. But it's the job. And you go to work in a job and you do what the boss wants. When I modified these plans, I, for instance, tried to get the targeting off cities and off Moscow and off China automatically. And actually, I failed in all that. Not hitting Moscow was just unthinkable.
When they are exploded, they will produce a doomsday shroud.
Ellsberg compares the war plans to the 1964 movie Dr. Strangelove, which centers on the existence of a doomsday machine meant to automatically respond to a first strike attack with enough nuclear weapons to destroy all life on Earth.
And Dr. Strangelove was a documentary. It saw the mad humor in this situation.
Gee, I wish we had one of them doomsday machines, Stainsy.
It still makes me laugh when I think about it because it's hard to take this seriously, except that it's very serious indeed. Those were and are our preparations for nuclear war.
He intended to bring the information to the public after the close of the war in Vietnam.
But found publishers then and 30 years later feeling we can't sell this to readers. They don't want to hear anything with the word nuclear in the title. And that was true right up until the present.
More than 50 years later, Ellsberg has published a new book about his experience. Wow. He wrote the book in his bunker-like office, referencing documents from his considerable archives. So there are a few books down here, just a few. And you've created your own library classification system. Nuclear notes.
First use. These are the threats of first use of nuclear weapons. A lot of notes.
Wow.
It's a chapter in the book, and this is a draft dated 1995. So people ask me, why have you waited to put this stuff out? Well, the truth is I put it out in lectures and sometimes trying to get it out by special means like getting arrested, testifying. Here I'm putting out all these secrets at the time. There was no story on it at all.
Nobody noticed.
And, nobody was interested.
But the world is paying attention now. North Korean leader Kim Jong-un has been testing intercontinental ballistic missiles.
They will be met with fire and fury.
President Trump has threatened the full force of the U.S. military, and Russian President Vladimir Putin this week shocked the world, unveiling an updated weapons system, including a new ICBM that he says is invincible. Does the brinkmanship feel different this time around?
No, not really. The brinkmanship has been there. As I've said, it was a way of using nuclear weapons without pulling the trigger. Using a gun at someone's head in a confrontation without pulling the trigger. You're using the gun. And to say we haven't used these weapons or that they've proved useless is simply misleading. Trump and Kim are both using their weapons right now, and one or the other may back down or not. Putin is making similar first-use threats. His are threats of crazy action, just as ours are. And that doesn't unfortunately mean that they will never be carried out.
Now 86, Ellsberg and his wife Patricia have been privately living with this knowledge for as long as their nearly 50-year marriage. Today, it's their fellow citizens who are also living on edge. Hawaii inadvertently sent out a message alerting residents to an incoming missile attack. It was a false alarm.
What Hawaii did, the alert, was to make 1 million or so Hawaiian citizens aware for the first time of the kinds of dangers that we have all in the world been living with for half a century without thinking about them, and what to do. Some dived into manholes. Many people, interestingly, sat in bathtubs. A total symbolic action. It's not what I would have done.
What would you have done?
Oh, I would have invited Patricia to lie down with me and kiss for as long as the alarm went on. And if it didn't have on, we would have had a good half hour.
Is it a miracle that we haven't had a nuclear holocaust?
Yes, miracles do happen. And by that, I don't mean just it was unlikely, but it was hard to imagine if you knew what the real risks were. It's not impossible that there'll be another 70 years. It would take another miracle. What I'm working at is to try to alerting people to the danger before the alarm sounds, to do something about it so that the risk will be somewhat less.
You know, we're so, I think, entranced and preoccupied with domestic policies and politics, but there is a lot happening in this world.
Well, as he points out, this risk has been there for half a century, and we've really not stared it in the face.
And our geopolitical adversaries, in many ways, remain the same. We are still talking about Russia in the nuclear arms race.
And Dr. Strangelove is a documentary we should all pay attention to.
We should.